to another podcast of the Academy for the Advancement of Animal Chiropractic. I'm Dr. Karen. That's Dr. Byron. We got Rachel, or Dr. Rachel. And today we have a guest, Dr. Brett Wessel. So he's a chiropractor from Oklahoma, originally from Yates City, Illinois. He got his undergrad in the University of Tennessee at Martin, and he competed in his college rodeo team. So after some multiple injuries and surgeries, he was kind of pushed by his own chiropractor and his future wife for a little bit of encouragement to go to chiropractic school. And then he went to Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport in 2001, practiced in the same area or in the same office. And then he got certified by the AVCA in 2005. And is split between animal chiropractic and human chiropractic. And currently, he's the president of the AVCA right now, but he is going to be passed his baton by the end of the year. So we're super excited to have him on our podcast so he can give us a little bit of insight about the AVCA. So yeah, welcome. We very much appreciate you being here. Anything I missed with your bio that you're like, ooh, this is so me?
No, that's good enough. Yeah, that's about all there is.
Nice. I love it. All right. Okay. So let's kind of talk about, I guess if we had to pick one thing. So since we're kind of focusing on the AVCA, what is one thing that you learned about the AVCA that you didn't necessarily realize was so important from the first time, when you got your certification and all that, that you're like, the AVCA fills this gap, and then you didn't realize it?
You know, I don't know how much of a surprise it is, but I always said that the animal chiropractic part of my job, it started out as selfish, really selfish. I did not know anybody adjusted animals until I was in my third year at Palmer. Took a weekend course there and got involved, honestly, just for myself, by selfish reasons. Like I said, I rodeoed for years. My wife's a barrel racer. I thought, yeah, that's something I need to know, but I did not think it would be a job. I thought it's kind of like, this is a thing you learn, and, we all kind of pick up techniques as you go. You're like, this ain't my life, but I think I could use that once in a while. So over the years, that has morphed a great deal. It got more into, this is an important thing and it needs to be done. And then the more I got into it, it really became one of those Kennedy type deals, if not now, when, if not me, who. So you get more involved, and then you start realizing how important it is making those changes for the other areas. Again, I can say not intentionally selfish, but I'm really lucky. I practice in Oklahoma, and it ain't like that in the rest of the country. I
Yes,
know a
correct.
lot of the other states, it's crazy. We've got such a great law here. And again, that was where I started. So I think a lot of that goes back to just getting involved with the AVCA because I felt like the profession was growing and I wanted to be part of that, and the work needed to be done. But also when you start looking outside your own box and realizing, that's part of the AVCA is we've got just board members from all over the country. So when you talk to them about what their daily life is like compared to what my daily life is like, that has been the biggest eye opener. And of course, the big variety of practice. There's small animal people, there's large animal people, there's exotic people. Generally, nobody gets to be only one thing. You'll have those weird ones thrust upon you everywhere. But like I said, the background, the type of practice, the style of practice, the variety there has been really eye-opening over the years and continues to be that. And like I said, probably the biggest surprise was that how much we have to help out, reach out as a larger group, but then also how big the work is in general as far as animal chiropractic.
Sweet. Okay, so you had brought up that, you practice in Oklahoma where the rules are very supportive to a human chiropractor adjusting animals who's certified. So, what would you say some of the biggest challenges that we still face from the animal chiropractic space, as far as, public perception or even education, regulation, things like that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it comes up all the time. Honestly, that's one of the biggest things we deal with from outside the association, the different states that have different laws, and it's a tough deal because you're talking about two different professions, and animal chiropractic is a little bit outside of both professions, but we don't have a specific singular profession, so it's each one is the veterinarian side and the chiropractic side. It's always tough for me because again, I've started here in Oklahoma and I've only practiced in Oklahoma where we've had this law since 2000 or 2001, and it's always worked great. So I'm kind of taken back at some of the territorialness that you deal with in other places, because I have such a great working relationship with guys on both sides of the aisle that I deal with all the time. So as far as seeing the other states in those situations, it really has to come down to the state, and we have to work with each other. I mean, that's the number one thing I've learned is we should not expect boards to get along. Everybody they're taking care of their own, just like we take care of our own, in a way that any state that you've got your veterinarian board, that their job is to take care of their veterinarians. But technically, that's not the truth. Every board is to protect the public from their practitioners.
Yeah.
But associations get involved and then they try to protect their members from somebody else making money. So finding that professional gap in there, what I always tell people is you can't take a board and expect them to get along with the board. You don't just introduce, hello, this is these two here. It's got to be people. It's got to be people, and it's got to be doctors, and it's got to be on a professional level. Because the way I've explained it may be oversimplification, but I've always said, don't expect my board to get along with your board, but Brett can get along with Karen,
Right.
and
Right.
Elliot can get
Right.
along with John, and that's how it has to start. In every situation, it has to be within your states, and it has to be personal. It has to be face to face. As the AVCA president, for me to call any state rep anywhere in the world, I mean nothing to them. I don't even vote in their state, so it really has to be on a personal level in the state with the people that and that's a hard thing. But the AVCA really has just worked as a supportive role here as far as trying to give background to the people so now we're behind the scenes to say, you got a problem with your state. Well, again, the first thing I'm going to tell you is find you a guy. Don't start trouble with the board. Find a guy who's on the board, and let's talk about this and show what we have and show what the other states have done. And we keep those resources in an email where we just shoot them out. Leslie's there all the time. Every week we're sending one to somebody, whether it's a state that's saying, sometimes we get requests from the legislators where they're like, what is animal chiropractic? I hear my people saying they want this. What is it? And what is an animal chiropractor? So we send our statistics, say this is what they have to have for education. This is our continuing education protocols. This is what the state laws in other areas look like. So it's really a matter of communication. And none of us get in this profession for that reason, but the first day you open up practice and you go into business, you realize it's all about communication.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree.
I think
And totally.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, Rich. Were you?
No, go ahead.
You go. Okay. I was gonna say it's really fun listening right now because he's pretty much blending all the topics that we're discussing on what we wanted to hear from him to begin with, right? And I did want to ask a little bit more on something that you were touching, and that was we're talking about the AVCA, and we're talking about networking and collaborating and the growth in different states and how they're different. So for some of the listeners that might be, let's say, students or new practitioners, can you talk a little bit why the ABCA certification is so important with not only the credibility, but also just kind of increasing the awareness and the consistency across the profession, pretty much what you've been guiding and directing?
Yeah, so I mean the talking point is always AVCA is the gold standard. That's what they like to say is, oh, this is the gold standard for animal chiropractic. This is the most education certification you can get. We require the most hours. We have the most stringent protocols. We have a separate ACCC certification body. There's a difference between membership and certification and all those type of professional things. Um, I have young doctors talk to me about it. As far as, again, I have to look from their aspect because I'm a long way from beginning, but they'll ask me about AVCA certification because they do see the new state laws. Most of the new state laws are using our information or our statistics, our curricula as the baseline. They say, okay, if we're going to write a law for who is certified to adjust animals, this is they have to come up to this standard.
Mhm.
So at that, just for that reason, you should look into the AVCA certification because if there's a new law or if there's an old law, even I've had people come to me and say they're getting into the AVCA because the other states, so many of the other states are adopting those AVCA requirements that they're afraid that they're going to change over and they don't want to be left outside. They're joining for that reason. So, uh, but that's just legal. That's just the legal reasons as far as doing it. There's a lot of reasons to join to become certified, but then also be a association member. There's a lot more benefits than just protecting yourself or trying to guess which way the law is going to go. I mean, just the fact that you're automatically into this. I mean, I always look at the association more like a fraternity or a sorority in the best way, in that it's not about social stuff, but it's about professional engagement later. You're in this group automatically with doctors in every state, in every part of the country, in other countries. So you have that resource of information. If you're having trouble with anything from technique to business to communications, there's other people who have been at that phase of every phase of practice already out there, and that's just a great resource to draw on from experience wise. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but that's why I encourage people to get involved, because there's all of the technical stuff, but there's a lot of other benefits there.
No, absolutely. I think that hit it pretty well.
For sure. I think too, one of the things you touched on with communication, at least for me and my experience, what I've learned too, one of the important things about these states as they're expanding is relationships. Building those relationships. You've got three people, well, four people from four different states on this call alone, Oklahoma with a great scope, Colorado with Dr. B, Illinois with Dr. Karen, still needs a referral. And I'm in Kentucky. I'm not an animal chiropractor, but I did help change the laws out here. And so, yes, AVCA was a part of that conversation as well. And so it's just kind of interesting the dynamic, the four states, the four scopes, and that direction that they're going. But what I found to be most beneficial in these changing things is the relationships, showing up, getting to know. I had to get to know the vet board first and kind of get that
There you go.
relationship in before these changes happen. So I totally get what you're saying.
Well, and there's another factor as well
Yeah.
when you're talking about, especially when you're talking about going out into other professions, whether it's veterinary professions or legislators or other people that don't know anything about it as well. It's a numbers game as well.
Hmm.
just like, so as chiropractors, you always have this difficulty for whatever you want to change because we're such a small group compared to other professions, and it's always a crippling kind of deal, whether it's uh, why do we care kind of thing. And the AVCA being that as large a group as we are, it's still a very small profession, but we need to make a consensus in there to where you get the more people you get involved with, the more influential it can be. So, and again, it's strength in numbers, I guess, is what you say there as much as you can. But the communication between each other and the AVCA has been selected by most of these states as, okay, so this is the one that we're going to follow. Well, that's the one to attach yourself to as a profession, and that's the way that we look at it.
Yeah. Two questions. One, do you guys know how many members y'all have in the AVCA right now? Because
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I'm just because I know you talk about numbers and chiropractic being small and then animal chiropractic being a subset of that, but it is one of the fastest, if not the fastest, growing population of chiropractic to begin with. So I'm just curious how big y'all are.
Yeah,
And then
you talk about growing fast, man.
oh, for
So
sure.
I think we're like 500, I'm guessing,
Mhm.
and that's, we do have, there's different levels of membership. You've got your practicing professionals, and then you've got your members that are just kind of associated with it, and then you got your student members, and then there's always that kind of flux in and out of, well, they let theirs lapse and they go in. So, but
Yeah.
500 is kind of a rough number. But you talk about the growth. I mean, I've been doing the exam for I don't know how many, at least 15 years, and it's doubled, I think. I've seen it to where there, I'll say we had as many people take the test this last time as we did the year after COVID, which should have been a double. And it just keeps
Yeah.
growing, and those numbers are staying up high as far as
Mhm.
people taking the certification exam, wanting to be certified and to be members, and it's fantastic. Again, in my time, uh, when people would, like, say clients coming to the barn with horses to get adjusted, and they've got this high school kid and they're like, man, they really love what you want to do. I want to be what you are when I grow up. I want to do this for a living. And 20 years ago, I was like, yeah, you better get a real job. You need a day job too. I don't feel like that anymore. Um, and part of that is because, the biggest part, it's the public, it's the public's recognition and demand for the service. The owners are the ones that are driving so much of the change. The owners are the ones that change legislation. As much as we'd like to say we're gonna make this law, man, it comes back to the guys in the legislation, and they owe to their constituents who are the owners. Everything has to change from that grassroots level as the owners of the animals, and the owners of the animals are more utilizing us more in every discipline, every animal. I mean, dog shows to horse shows to livestock shows to all that kind of stuff. It's just expanded. It's getting to where it's becoming a standard practice. It's like if you're not doing this, then you're not keeping up.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
okay, so then that goes to a question. So I know Rachel's gonna ask a question, but I'm just gonna sneak in there. But so you had said that the number of students wanting to get tested, and I know that AVCA right now, they only do the test once a year. So is there a potential that the AVCA might do it more time, like offer it more than once a year and kind of systematize it a little bit? Or is it still gonna only be once a year, you get in when you can. What does that look like for growth?
That is something that we talked about. If we get to the point to where we need two a year, we can do two a year. They can do more of them. It's a matter of just supply and demand. The
Sure.
toughest thing about the exam compared to some of the other certification type exams you get is the practical. You know, that's man, it's a huge thing. And same thing with like you guys understand with like your CEs and any type of lab stuff. When if you're doing anything that requires live animals and on location, that exponentially makes it more difficult to do.
Right.
But certainly that is something that we've discussed as far as doing it more than once. But I don't know that you could ever get to the point of like some of your certification exams where you just show up at a computer in the hallway and you take questions until you answer enough that's right and boom, you're done. It's never,
Right.
I don't think it's ever going to get to where you can take the certification exam anytime you want to. And the reason being is the lab, the practical part.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. So Rachel, what were you were going to ask about the
Yeah.
actual certification process?
Yeah, kind of like I wanted to take an approach because again, our listeners may vary from, I'm interested in animal chiropractic too. Yes, you're going to have the certified animal chiropractors already listening to this, but I kind of just wanted to get a little bit more background too on the steps to become certified. What does that look like? How do I become a certified animal chiropractor? What does the testing look like? I know you said it's once a year, and then, I know you have a separate committee, so maybe you want to touch on that as well. That kind of oversees the testing and the certification process, but just kind of from a pretend I know absolutely nothing about what this looks like. If there was a way to boil it down, and we could probably talk about an hour for this alone. But if there's like a high level, like what does this look like from the AVCA?
You know, the AVCA if you go to the animalchiropractic.org is the number one place I'd have to say. Anybody that's interested, if you're interested in becoming certified or what it takes to be certified, animalchiropractic.org is the AVCA website that has all of the different certifications as far as the kind of hours that you need to even be eligible to take the test, and then when the test is given and what those requirements are there. So as far as somebody that comes to me, like again, the high school student who's in my barn saying, I want to do what you do, how do I go about that? The first thing you have to tell them is, well, you still got to go to your undergrad, and the number, I don't remember the number of hours, the specific hours that are there, but, I'm telling them it's at least 3.5 years, if not 4 years of undergrad for just your prereqs. And then it's chiropractic college or veterinary school, which is another 3.5 years to graduate. Then in that last year or after that, then you can start taking animal chiropractic courses, which is another 6 months or 8 months, depending on the program. And then you're eligible to take the certification exam, which is given at this point once a year. And then once you finish that one, then you can be the certified doctor. So it's all of those different pieces in there. I would like it to be a little more common knowledge as far as what animal chiropractors are as far as education wise. Again, for the lay people. The problem with some of the lay practitioners that are out there is they kind of give people a skewed idea that it's almost like, well, is it like a 6-week deal? Can I just go to shoeing school and be a farrier?
Right.
Or can I just go to this class and do what you do? I don't want all that other stuff. I just want to learn how to pop horses. Can I just do that? And I think people are, again, as things have changed in my years of practice, I've certainly seen more and more people understanding that they at least need to be a doctor. And then starting to understand how much education goes into it before certification. And it's my crowning glory every once in a while, about 2 or 3 times a year, I get somebody that calls me up and asks, I got your name from so-and-so for adjusting animals, and then they ask, are you certified? And I'm like, yes.
Yes,
And I'm
I
so
am.
happy you asked,
Yeah.
thank goodness. And then they say, well, how long you been doing this? And then I got to go 20 probably years. I've been kind of old at this already. I was sideline. I was at the exam one time, and Leslie came to me with some kind of administrative question about what we're going to do about this, and this has been a long time ago already. But I looked around and I said, I don't know, Leslie, why don't you ask one of these older guys? And she just stood there for a minute and she goes, you're kind of the old guy now. You've
Oh.
been here.
You're like,
You've been
oh,
here that long.
dagger.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the last conference I was at last November, I had 3 guys come up to me that told me stories about me rodeoing with their dads.
Nope.
And like I said,
Oh.
these are grown men with children and practices, and
Yeah.
that makes you feel old.
Oh.
I'm a whole generation removed from that already, so
Oh,
you got that to look
hurts.
forward to.
Well, Doug, I wanted to turn back a little bit when we were discussing on the AVCA and how you get benefits from membership and how that regulatory body in general is just trying to like pave the way and so there's a little bit more symmetry across the United States. Couple things, and then I know we're wrapping up here, time running out of time. So one thing was, are there any like priorities or initiatives that as the governing body for the AVCA is focusing on to really help support the certified animal chiropractors out there? And then if so, what are some of the major member benefits that we can be looking forward to coming up here soon?
Yeah, so I'm glad for the opportunity to kind of delineate that because we're kind of in a tough position when you talk about changing laws in different places because so the AVCA, it's a 501c professional membership association. Okay. So this means we cannot engage in lobbying, political action, the kind of things that really make stuff happen in your local House of Representatives. So, but what we are doing and what we continue to do is we hand the papers to the lawyer. If you understand what I mean, we've got all of the information, we've got the certification, statistics, the numbers for what are required. We've got good examples of laws from other states that this is working in this place and this is working in this place. And, here's the history of those. So we've got that right on hand. So we pass that along with everybody that we deal with. But basically, again, it has to be done within a state level. And, but absolutely, we want them to come to us and say, okay, I'm starting this dialogue with the board or the legislators or whichever level they're working at. Let me give you this packet of information. Let me send them this packet of information. Because like I said, we get calls every week, sometimes from the vet board, sometimes from the chiropractic board, sometimes from an association, sometimes from a group of legislators. They're like, okay, we're interested in doing this. People kept telling us they want animal chiropractors, but how do we do that? So it's much easier for a legislator who is not in our profession to look at, say, Arkansas's law, look at Oklahoma's law. Look at Tennessee's law that just happened. Okay, this is what's happening now. This is the way this is going. This is the momentum that we're doing, and build you something. Use this as a template and put it into work to your state because it's working in these other places. So, and again, just that having the information there available, passing it along, and then our members, again, it's about individuals. Call those older guys in your state or that are in the association, or if you don't know, again, there's so few of us. You may have allies in your area that you don't know about. Look them up on the list. We keep a steady list of AVCA certified doctors. It's listed by state. Find all of them in your state. If you're interested in doing something like that, I suggest get everybody involved that you can. And we keep those kind of things listed as well so that that's easy to contact them. And of course, you can just call the office and say, hey, Leslie, who should I get a hold of or how can they help? Because that really is and they love doing it, and they're very good at it. That's what we do.
Nice.
Love it. Well, in the interest of time, I have two questions for you. So what is your favorite animal to adjust? Obviously have to know that.
You know, I, I hesitate to say, it's like, who's your favorite kid?
Right. Everybody has a favorite.
Yeah, I got a least favorite.
Yeah.
I always like to joke about horses. People say, I'm not gonna say I got a favorite horse, but I know which one I'd eat first.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so then what's your least favorite animal to adjust? Well, that was probably easier.
I won't see pigs. I won't deal with pigs.
Okay.
That's my deal. I adjust more horses than I do any other animal. So of course I'd have to say, and horses are the reason that I got into it. They're all so fun to adjust. Everything four-legged is fun to adjust, and some of them are easier than others. Sheep are like, man, the easiest thing in the world to adjust.
Right.
You barely get a hold of them and you get audibles. They're so easy to adjust.
Yeah.
But again, dogs are awesome because dogs get better so fast. Man, their recuperative powers are out of this world. What the kind of condition that take weeks with a human, I can fix in a dog in one or two adjustments. And so all those things are, and it's very reassuring of the green books. Like I said, I'm a Palmer guy, and that philosophy is hard on me, and it's in me, and the animal chiropractic is the truest expression of all the chiropractic philosophy, because there's no placebo. They're either better or not, and they're better so fast. And if you want to talk about innate, you want to talk about that other kind of stuff, man, you see it before your eyes. It happens so fast in them. It's really encouraging in just the profession in general.
Love it. Awesome. So, final question. If you could go back and give yourself advice to your younger self, because now that you talked about you're one of the older guys, or to a new graduate just getting certified, what would you tell them?
I hate to say that, just because I would sound just like every old guy that I listen to, but man, the truth is just hang in there. It's a long game. There's dips, and there's valleys, and there's mountains, and there's times that are going to come along. You really doubt yourself, and just hang in there and do what you do, and it'll be a rewarding thing. It's a rewarding life. It's a rewarding profession. Animals, humans, both. We've been through some stuff. I just bought a practice from a retiring doctor. I started on my own April of 2001, and then, how many months later, 5 months later, is 9/11, and the whole world crashed, and I'm at this point, I'm young, I'm in tremendous debt. I just bought this practice, and now I don't know if people stop leaving their houses, and then there's financial crashes after that and all that kind of stuff. And, my 25-year career, like I said, there's been so many ups and downs, but if you just take it as a whole, just hang in there, bud. It'll work out. Just hang in there.
Awesome. Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Brett. We really appreciate it. We'll make sure to post the link where, if anybody is not an AVCA member, if you're interested in more information, you can join. You can get certified by them if you're not already certified.
There you go.
And just remember that AVCA is there to help us all just do better, stick together as a profession. The Academy also works well with the AVCA as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.